So students, during week 2, I would be covering about balance of payments, I would be covering about international monetary system, I would be covering about the exchange rate regimes and also the economic union. To start with, what is balance of payment? So international flow of funds refers to all those flows that appear in the capital account of balance of payments. That is, international flow of funds has a close bearing with the balance of payments. It is concerned with the economic transactions of an economy with the rest of the world. Transactions for the most part between residents and non-residents consist of those involving goods, services and income, those involving financial claims on and liabilities to the rest of the world, and those classified as transfers which involve offsetting entries to balance in an accounting sense one-sided transaction. A transaction itself is defined as an economic flow that reflects the creation, transformation, exchange, transfer or extension of economic value and involves changes in ownership of goods, financial assets, the provision of services or the provision of labor and capital. So, international flow of fund actually includes receipts and payments in respect of both transaction and investment funds. Now, the balance of payment, it is a broader term and it includes balance of trade. It is more comprehensive than the balance of trade. Balance of trade refers to the merchandise account of exports and imports only, but balance of payment refers to the net results that are drawn, recording all the visible and invisible items that are imported and exported from the country. Balance of payment, such as a comprehensive statement over the net results of foreign trade and gives a true picture as to where the country stands in the international trade. So some of the definitions of balance of payments are: it is a systematic record of all economic transactions between the residents of the reporting country and residents of foreign countries during a given period of time. So there are some characteristics of balance of payments. That is, it is a statement of systematic record of all economic transactions between one country and the rest of the world. It is a record pertaining to a period of time, which is usually 1 year. It includes all transactions, that is, current transactions as well as capital transactions. It is a way of listing receipts and payments in international transactions of a country. It adopts a double entry bookkeeping system and it has two sides, the debit and the credit. Payments are recorded on the debit side and the receipts on the credit side. In the accounting sense, debit and credit will always balance each other, and it contains two sets of accounts, current account and capital account. Real and short-term transactions are recorded under current account and financial and long-term transactions are recorded under capital account. So now we'll be discussing about the components of the balance sheet, that is the current account, capital account and the official reserve account. So current account, it is divided into three subcategories, that is the merchandise trade balance, the services balance and the balance or unilateral transfers. The components of the current account I will be discussing in class in detail. That is, I will be explaining you about merchandise, invisible and unilateral transfers. And capital account, it is an accounting measure of the total domestic currency value of financial transactions between domestic residents and the rest of the world over a period of time. This account consists of loans, investments and other transfers of financial assets and the creation of liabilities. It includes financial transactions associated with international trade as well as flows associated with portfolio involving the purchase of foreign stocks, bonds and bank deposits, And capital account is also divided into three categories: direct investment, portfolio investment, and other capital flows. And what is official reserve account, or just it is the reserve account? These reserves are the government owned assets. The official reserve account, it represents only purchases and sales by the central bank of the country. And the changes in official reserves are necessary to account for the deficit or surplus in the balance of payments. So that is why an official reserve account is also maintained. And coming to the equilibrium and disequilibrium in balance of payments. What is this equilibrium? It is the state of balance of payment over the relevant time period which makes it possible to sustain an open economy without severe unemployment on a continuous basis. That is, balance of payments equilibrium occur when induced balance of payments transactions are zero, which implies that autonomous receipts from exports and the sale of securities abroad equal autonomous payment for imports and the purchase of securities from foreign residents. Since changes in the stock of official reserves of foreign exchange are the method used by the authorities to fix or otherwise manipulate the exchange rate, balance of payments equilibrium requires that stock of foreign exchange reserves to be constant. There are different types of balance of payment equilibrium like static equilibrium and dynamic equilibrium. Now, what is balance of payment disequilibrium? The balance of payments of a country is said to be in equilibrium when the demand for foreign exchange is equal to the supply. The balance of payments is in disequilibrium when there is either a surplus or a deficit in the balance of payments. When there is a deficit in the balance of payments, the demand for foreign exchange exceeds the demand for it. So there are different types of balance of payments disequilibrium like cyclical disequilibrium, secular disequilibrium, structural disequilibrium, temporary disequilibrium, and the fundamental disequilibrium. Then students, I would be discussing about the international monetary system. What is international monetary system? Or International Monetary Fund. See, this international monetary system, it is the framework within which the countries will borrow, lend, buy, sell and make payments across the political frontiers. The framework determines how balance of payments disequilibrium can be resolved. And numerous frameworks are possible and most have been tried in one forms or the another. So this international monetary system involves when there is a balance of payments disequilibrium. Okay, so there are different methods of making the balance of payments equilibrium, which we call as exchange rate regimes. What is this exchange rate regime? You know what is exchange rate? It is the value of one currency against the value of the other, or value of one currency in terms of the other. The term exchange rate regime, it refers to the mechanism, procedure and institutional framework for determining exchange rate at a point in time and changes in them over time, including factors which induce the changes. And theoretically, a very large number of exchange rate regimes are possible, but at the two extremes are the perfectly rigid, which we call as fixed exchange rates, and in another extreme is a perfectly flexible or floating exchange rates. Between these two extremes are hybrids with varying degrees or limited flexibility. So now I'll be discussing about the evolution of these exchange rate systems. The international monetary system, it establishes the rules by which countries value and exchange their currencies. It provides a mechanism for correcting imbalances between a country's international payments and its receipts, as I already told you. Further, the cost of converting foreign money into firm's home currency is also one of the functions of the international monetary system. The history of monetary system started when in ancient time tribes and city-states of India, Babylon and Phoenicia used gold and silver as a medium of exchange for trade. So the history of international monetary system includes gold standard system, Bretton Woods standard system, pre-Bretton Woods standard system, post-Bretton Woods system, fixed exchange rates, fluctuating exchange rates. So gold standard, that is gold was used as a storage of wealth and also medium of exchange. The gold standard as an international monetary system, it gained acceptance in Western Europe in 1870s and existed as a historical reality during 1870, that is from the period 1875 to 1914. Then came the different types of gold standards that were used, like gold specie standard, de facto gold standard, gold bullion and gold exchange standard, gold points and gold export import, and gold point spread. And there were limitations and also the advantages of using this gold standard as the exchange. Then there was interwars happened. Then it shifted to the exchange rate shifted to the Bretton Woods system, that is the depression of 1930s, followed by another war as vastly diminished commercial trade, the international exchange of currencies and cross border lending and borrowing. So revival of the system was necessary and the reconstruction of the post-war financial system began with the Bretton Woods Agreement that emerged from the International Monetary and Financial Conference of United and Associated Nations in July 1944 at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. And the features of Bretton Woods systems are it was based on US dollar system, and there was adjusted peg system, and the capital control was very tight, and the macroeconomic performance was good. And there were recommendations of Bretton Woods system, but though it was effective, it did not last long. So this there was a breakdown of the Bretton Woods system, and the next system that was followed was the fixed exchange rate system, where it is a type of exchange rate regime wherein a country's currency's value is matched to the value of another currency or to a basket of other currencies or to another measure of value like gold. And that was fixed exchange rate regime. Then was the flexible exchange rate regime, which is the fluctuating exchange rate regime, which is also referred as floating or flexible exchange rate regime, which is one of the several kinds of regimes in which the value of currency can fluctuate according to movement of foreign exchange market. So according to this system, exchange rate fluctuates on a regular basis in response to the changes in demand and supply forces in the market. And some financial experts believe that the floating exchange rate regime is more appropriate choice to use because it does not interfere with the foreign trade. So this was the about the fixed exchange rate regime. Let me discuss this in detail with different types of exchange while discussing about the exchange rate regimes. So, and the last is the economic monetary union. So, what is this economic and monetary union? Heading back to some forms of fixed exchange rate system, after managing floating rates for more than a quarter century. The parities were redefined and widened to band of violation variation to 2.25%. Another adjustable peg system was born. The countries belonging to Among the countries belonging to European Economic Community. This was the snake created in 1972, designed to keep the economic countries exchange rates, European countries exchange rates with narrower band of 1.125% around the central rates, while they maintain the wider bands of 2.25% against the countries of other countries' rates. Hence, the designation snake is in the tunnel. Snake in the tunnel, hence the name like it is a snake. And in 1977, the snake became European monetary system with all European countries except Britain joining the club. Okay, so the objectives of the economic monetary union are adoption of an economic policy based on a close coordination between economic policies of the member states, fixing of irrevocable exchange rates leading to a single currency, development of a single monetary policy, having an objective of price stability and the support to the economic policies of the member states in general. So there are limitations and the benefits of economic monetary system. The primary benefit of the economic monetary system is that it has helped in stabilizing exchange rates in the currencies of member states. That is, currencies cease to fluctuate, which in turn is likely to lead to several gains on the economic front. That is, elimination of the transaction costs otherwise required to be incurred in dealing with multiple currencies. It also resolves uncertainties associated with fluctuations in exchange rates. All prices will be in common currency and therefore it is likely to bring about a greater transparency in prices. Better functioning of financial markets was possible due to a single currency. This apart, liquidity of financial markets also has enhanced. There was a greater credibility with respect to the world outside. It also signifies giving up an independent national monetary policy. There seems to be an agreement among the member states that the effect of economic monetary system will be beneficial for the economic growth of the Europe. That is, there is a realization that there may be some problems in short and medium term, that the programs of structural adjustment carried out by the countries like Italy, Spain, Portugal and even Germany to reduce public deficits and inflation by a restrictive policy had negative effects on internal demand and growth. This policy also had negative effects on neighboring countries in terms of reduction of their international business. As far as positive effects of economic monetary union are concerned, it has helped in lowering of interest rates for member states of economic union, that is European Union, as lenders found their currencies to be less volatile to exchange rate fluctuations and therefore demanded less risk premiums as a part of the interest rates charged by them. The lowering of interest rates is expected to promote investments and also lower their debt service burden. So, there are limitations of this economic and monetary union, some of which are some fear that the participating states may not be able to pull out of a national economic crisis without the ability to devalue its national currency and encourage exports. Others worry that the participating European states will be forced to give tax breaks to compete with each other and that companies may have to lower wages for their employees and to lower prices on goods that they produce. As taxes continue to be levied at the international level and not by the EMU, tax policy cannot be used as a tool to help individual states that may be experiencing an economic downturn. Some countries may fear that joining the EMU may pull their country down to the economic equivalent of the least common denominator, saddling them with the economic problems of countries with a less successful economy. However, the creation of economic and monetary union has certain economic and social costs for some countries. There are the countries which have not yet attained a required level of economic convergence. Maintaining their currency within the EMS has caused higher unemployment and other economic difficulties. So, students, let me discuss all these topics in detail in our regular classes, and thank you for listening.